Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pints and Quarts, a show presented by the Craft Beer Nation. Today is Thursday, May 12th, and tonight we have a special guest. We have Virginia Johnson from the Cicerone Program. I'm
Thomas.
sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I said Virginia, and we know a Ginger Johnson.
I know, I
So
know.
that threw me off. I'm so sorry. Okay, let's start all over. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pints and Quarts, a show presented by the Craft Beer Nation. Today is Thursday, May 12th, and tonight we have a very special guest. We have Virginia Thomas from the Cicerone Program. We're going to be talking about a lot of fun things. We're going to learn a little bit more about the Cicerone Program beyond taking a test for beer. There's more to it than just that, so stick around and find out what she has to say. And I want to take a second to point you to our different social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram. We gram or we IG at Craft Beer Nation. We tweet at Craft B Nation. You can find us on Facebook, and you can also find us on Google Plus. So pour that beer in a glass, get comfortable while the theme music plays, and when you visiting those social media sites, follow us. Go to our YouTube page, click subscribe, like us. We like you. Like us back, please. Anyway, stick around. We'll be right back. All right. So, like I said, guys, after I totally had the brain fart of the century, as if I was not just talking to Virginia for the past 30 minutes, I name crossed, but it's all good. That's behind us. Virginia, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. We're excited to have you on the show, and I can't wait to get into this interview. We're also joined by Matt Miller. Matt, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Fantastic. Thank you.
And Freddie Rodriguez, how are you doing tonight, my man?
Doing good, man. Ready to learn a little bit more on what's going on with the Cicerone program as well.
There we go. So, Virginia, you obviously like beer.
I do.
Let's talk about how you got here. How did your love affair with beer start, and how did you end up working for the Cicerone program?
So the short answer to that is I hated beer, went to cider, found craft beer, and then got my job via Twitter.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
So now the explanation.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's levels to this.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of macro lagers, just not my jam. I'm a fan of big, bold flavors. So, deviated from that, went to cider for a little while, had trouble finding it, and then suddenly I could find craft beer. So I started drinking that, and I found it to be to my palate, to my liking, and kind of went from there. I tend to be fairly academically minded, and I consider myself a nerd and a geek, and I like education in all forms. So, of course, I said there's got to be some sort of, society or educational program in beer. So I found it. I started following Ray on Twitter. I visited the website, things like that. Then Ray one day on Twitter said, "Hey, I have this job opening." And I believe my Twitter words were "job manna from heaven." And I applied. I got an interview. And at the end of the interview, I split in Allagash White with Mr. Ray Daniels. And, the rest is kind of history. That was in 2011.
I gotta tell you, I love the fact that I'm gonna do this from now, and instead of calling myself a nerd or whatever, I'm gonna say I consider myself to be academically minded.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I'm super curious about everything, so I tend to kind of take everything to a higher degree than maybe most people who are not professionals. So even as, a lay beer drinker, I, wanted to seek out education about beer and, figure out what was going on and why I liked what I liked.
Okay. So what would you say is the mission statement, or what's the overall goal for the Cicerone program? Coming from somebody who officially works for the Cicerone program, not just someone who is
official Cicerone. Yeah. So it's better beer for everybody.
Okay.
That's it.
There you go.
I mean, if you're paying, a good amount of money, you know, a glass this size in Chicago, not uncommon to have $10, $12 price tags attached to it. If you're paying that much for this amount of liquid, you want it to be served through clean draft lines, you want it to have been taken care of appropriately, you want it to be in a clean glass, you know. If any of those things are wrong, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
You feel ripped off. So it doesn't have to be the end consumer who has to say, hey, you guys, this is screwed up. They should know better. If you go into a restaurant and they can't answer a question about a menu item, or they can't tell you if there's an allergen or whatever it might be, you think they're a joke and you probably are going to walk out. Like, you need to be able to answer questions about your product. You need to be able to treat it appropriately. You don't want a hair on your plate, and you don't want your food burnt. So why would you accept beer that's, you know, through infected draft lines in a dirty glass?
Absolutely, and that makes all the sense in the world, because that's just as important a part. Your drink is just as important as your food. So
absolutely.
So, Matt, you about to say something?
Nope.
Oh, so Virginia, how many different levels do you guys have in the program right now?
So we just this past year added advanced Cicerone. So now we have 4 levels. We have certified beer server, certified Cicerone, advanced Cicerone, and master Cicerone.
Okay, so what was the impetus to adding that level in between certified and master?
So since 2011, I've actually helped to proctor or administer the advanced and master. Well, since we announced advanced, and people don't pass.
Okay.
I mean, people who are really talented and who I really respect, who I won't name because I don't want to out anybody. But you know, these are people who know their stuff, but still we require an 85% and, you know, well-rounded knowledge from draft troubleshooting, design, maintenance, and theory to beer and food pairing concepts. I mean, it's rigorous. It's 2 days. When my colleague Pat Fahey took it, he wrote over 80 pages by hand and got blisters from the pen. So it's no joke. But, you know, it has an 8% pass rate. And we really wanted something for people who wanted to distinguish themselves from being a certified Cicerone, who wanted a next step, who were not realistically going to be able to pass master. You know, they knew, hey, certified, I had that. I wish there was something else for me to set myself apart, to advance my skills further, but master is just too much for me, or it's not relevant to my position, or I don't have the ability in my life right now to take the time to study for that, you know, whatever it might be. So really it was the people who were taking master and not passing, and a lot of the people who were certified Cicerones who were never going to attempt master. And the one thing that I really love about Cicerone is that we kind of have our ear to the ground. Like, we really do listen to the people who are involved in our program. They're really important to us. And, you know, we want to laud them and listen to them as much as we possibly can. So it was in response to them. I think since we announced it, I've maybe had a handful, literally a handful of people complain.
So how do you achieve advanced? Do you test for master and score below 85 and earn advanced, or do you test for advanced, earn that, then come back and test for master?
Absolutely, the latter. Our program is sequential, so you have to be a certified Cicerone. And then right now the demand is so great for advanced, so we're having to use a lottery system. So any certified Cicerone who is interested in the exam will get an email with a link to a lottery. And then I'm the one that draws the lottery. I just drew for one today. So I sent out a few emails to people who actually got spots, and then everyone else is emailing me going, I didn't get an email. Does that mean I didn't get in? Yeah, it does. You'll be sent your alternate number later. We got to wait until the roster stabilizes, and then I'll send out alternate numbers. But right now we're having 70 to 100 people for each exam, and we only have 24 spots in each exam. So
yeah,
we're doing what we can.
How often are you testing for advanced then?
We did 6 this spring, and then we're doing 6 this fall, and then our plan is to repeat next year. So 12 a year.
You mentioned that, well, I think you said an 8% pass rate?
Yep, for master. Advanced, we only have one of the tests, well, I guess it's two of the 6 from the spring graded. And of that, 6 people passed of 39. So that roughly is about 15% pass rate. So we think it'll probably bump up a little bit once we get a larger pool of candidates, you know, through the process. We are aiming for it too. We'll see. But I call it advanced master light, because master's 2 days and advanced is 1, but the format is pretty much identical otherwise.
So is it quite similar to? Have you ever seen that documentary on Netflix?
I love Some. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Freddie put me on Some, and is
It's
it like is it that serious? Like, I mean, those guys.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's a life devotion right there,
I
man.
mean, these people study for 9 months to a year, where they don't go out after work, and they study. They make flashcards on flashcards, and they're tasting beer every day. I mean, I was around when Pat Fahey was studying for his master, and my husband's name is also Pat, so I sometimes call him Work Pat, because I have Work Pat. But because Pat and I are good friends, and we work together quite closely often. So, but when you're studying for the exam, I would help him by just getting random beers. He does tastings at the Beverage Tasting Institute, and I would raid what people sent them that was still left, or people would bring me in things like, oh, I found this in the back of my fridge, and it's got to be awful by now, just like random things. And I would blind taste him out on all that and make him do tasting notes. And I mean, he studied every single day, and he read every book that you can think of. I mean, he really studied really hard, and that's part of why he passed on his first shot. A lot of these people come into it not really knowing or not really realizing, I guess.
We have, in the past, we've interviewed Neil and Nicole, Neil Whitty and Nicole Ernie, and when you talk to someone who is at that level, you can tell they're a foot taller than a lot of other people that talk about beer. It's exciting to talk with them.
The cool thing about Neil, Neil said that he had like this crazy ability to be able to just take off his Cicerone hat and leave it off and enjoy beer for what it is. Like, are you the same way? Because I like to think that if I was a Cicerone, like, I'd be analyzing Aquafina. I'd be, I'd drink a Coke and be like, this Coke is off. There's something, I don't know. Maybe the draft lines are not clean. Like, can you turn it off like that? Is it that easy for you as well?
Yes and no. One of my personal, I guess, skills and abilities is palate stuff and sensory training. And I have a really finely tuned palate, and I do this quite frequently. So I'm really sensitive to smells. Like, I walk in the back door and I'm like, who didn't take out the garbage this morning? Like, from the other side of the house, So in a lot of ways, it can be kind of not great sometimes, but I can also sort of turn it off. And there are strategies, like if I'm out in the beer garden and my beer gets skunked, you just breathe deeply for 10 or 15 seconds, for a good long sniff, and then you won't smell it again for probably 20 minutes. You're going to be nose blind to it at that point. So I can enjoy my beer in peace. It's not going to be disturbing me every time I pick it up and put it to my face.
And with that, Virginia, do you feel pressure with that? Like, if you're going to, like you said, like a bar or something, and someone serves you a beer in a certain glass, do you feel like there's added pressure to that whatsoever?
No, not really. I mean,
do you want to say, hey, this is in the wrong glass?
No, I mean, what the bar chooses to serve it in, hopefully it accentuates the beer, but maybe they do it for branding or marketing. I mean, absolutely. I have a way that I think is best, but I don't own a bar, so I'm not there to tell everyone that they're doing it wrong. And I can absolutely appreciate, personal choices, restaurant choices, whatever that might be. As long as I don't have a really dirty glass, and even then, most of the time, I won't say anything, because unless it's got like lipstick or obvious like debris or something, then I'll definitely send it back. But if it's just like bubbles on the side, I hit it on the table so the bubbles aren't there anymore, and it doesn't bother me. Yeah. Because I don't want to be that pedantic about it.
Hey, Virginia, have you seen this thing? It's out in the world right now. It's called the internet. Those people are not like that.
I know.
They are not like that. And they're loud.
Oh yeah. So, I hear from them. I do customer service for Cicerone.
So Vessel.
The number of people that email me and tell me that it's a vine and not a bine. Oh my goodness.
So, Vessel aside, to piggyback off of Freddie's question, if you're at a bar in Chicago and it's clear that the draft lines are dirty.
Yep.
Is it your obligation to say, well, I mean, yeah, you got to say something, because I think this goes back to you saying you wouldn't expect hair on your food.
Yeah. Right.
So, have you ever done that before? Like, tell the bartender, dude, It's just
Yes and no. It's situational because
Yeah.
if it's a slammed bartender on a Friday night in a really busy bar, he's gonna be like, yeah, I don't care. It's not. And I don't want to be like, get me the manager,
Yeah.
Cicerone to the rescue. Like, I may say, can I get the manager's card or something? Maybe I'll send him an email. I mean, honestly, that doesn't happen that often. I feel like the bars that I go into are probably, I live in a little craft beer bubble. I know I do. The bars that I go into are some of the best bars in Chicago, which are some of the best bars in the country. So I'm not going to run into those kind of issues very much.
Yeah.
I mean, more often than not, it'll be dirty glass versus something else, And even then, a lot of people, they just don't know, and it's not always the frontline person's fault, or, there's ways to do it. People ask me when we teach off flavor classes a lot. So now that I know what these taste like, should I tell the bar, if they're there? And I'm like, not if you want to go back. Like, you've only had one class. Like, for me, it's a little different because I work for Cicerone and I'm a certified Cicerone. But, for the average person, people are just going to think you're being a jerk,
Yeah.
if they know or care. So there's ways to be tactful about it. I feel like I'm a professional, so hopefully the bar people know me, or it's a place I've been to before and they trust me so that they'll take me seriously and something will change. But, not everyone has that luxury either.
So stepping away from just the, strictly the beer aspect of the Cicerone program, we were talking before the show, and you said that you were kind of like on the business side of the Cicerone program. What exactly do you do in your current job capacity?
So, like you kind of briefly alluded to, we have a business side and a content side. So they kind of bleed over, obviously, because, we take our job very seriously and we all like beer a lot. But I am the business manager. That's my title. So I do all kind of businessy things. So I work on updating the website, and like I mentioned, I do customer service. So more often than not, if you pass certified or any of the higher level exams, you're going to be communicating with me. I send you an email. I do the lotteries for the advanced and the master. I do invoicing. I do collections. Like, if you call and you're yelling at my customer service people, they go, hang on, let me get you my manager. That's me. So I do kind of fun stuff like that. But I also do, some marketing and sales, and I do trade shows, and, we do staff off-flavor training, and, we do a lot of things. I've been a hand model before. There's a couple of our books that you'll see my hand on the tap handle. I take photos. I work on different other marketing campaigns, work with designers, and
Nice.
I'm fairly particular, and Ray and I work very closely together and have for many, many years, so I kind of act as a stand-in whenever Ray is not in the office, and do the big boss things like sign stuff, and I do payroll, and
So you do a little bit of everything then.
Yeah, spread thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Many
Yeah.
hats.
People are kind of surprised to learn that we are only 10 people, and we just recently got to 10. We've hired about 2 people every year for a while, but yeah, I mean, it used to be me and Ray and Nicole for a good long while, just the 3 of us. So, we do all these things. We just gave our first certified Cicerone exams in Australia and South Korea. We've given exams in Ireland and England and Scotland and Canada, and yeah, I mean, that's a big undertaking in and of itself, let alone giving the master 2 times a year, advanced 12 times a year, going to all the and we're 10 people. So people seem to think we're this large, super, great big organization. Yeah, not so much. We just work our asses off. So
so you obviously, we spoke earlier different levels of Cicerone, right? And I assume part of your job, a lot of people who have Cicerones and who are Cicerones and what they do. What types of jobs have you found to be common with people who are Cicerones?
So usually that's people who have some sort of managerial position. So, bar managers, GMs, people who work at distributors who are craft beer experts, or, kind of business development people. Anybody that you want to have an impressive role, right? So someone that you have people under you, you have You're going out into the field and talking to people. You want to be able to prove your stuff to all those people. But I talk about having this throughout your whole supply chain. So like people who print my shirts and print our flashcards and all that, all our marketing materials, they're certified beer servers. They have the little logo in their email signature. Our accountants, our insurance people, they work in beer. They specifically work with beer companies because I think that's important to understand our business and for us to understand, the distribution level, the retail level, and the brewery level because we work with all of them. So, that I always joke I have the only job in beer where I get to work 9 to 5 because, people who work in distribution are at work at 7 a.m. and people who work in bars are at work till 2 a.m. Like, that's a large swath. And I get to more or less get weekends off and work 9 to 5. So that makes even my job super unique.
So would you suggest that someone who doesn't plan to work in the beer industry, level through the Cicerone courses, or should like the average like the craft beer enthusiast or home brewer sticks to just the BJCP for practical beer knowledge? And what would be the main differences, you think?
So BJCP only covers beer styles and beer taste and flavor because that's what's relevant to them. And we cover keeping and serving beer and beer and food pairing. So we just cover more of the scope of things about beer, whereas they kind of just do part of that breadth. And, I feel like we don't really market ourselves to consumers. We want people to be aware of what we do. Like my Uber driver today, she knew what Cicerone was, and I was like, yes, my marketing is working. Because I want people who are at bars to ask about a Cicerone or to want it on the menu or to want to see someone's pin or whatever it is. But past that, like it's a professional certification. So sure, the first level's online and it's open to anyone. So if they wanted to do it, whether it's to get a foothold in the industry or just to do because they want to prove that they know something about beer, absolutely, we don't dissuade that. But it is a professional certification in the higher levels. It's really meant for people who are in the industry because it's priced as such and requires study for a good long while in there. And that's not really for most, typical beer drinker people.
Cool.
When are you going to test for advanced?
So I hope give the exam. So I can't take it. So until I get
ever. Yeah.
Well, as long as I'm doing that. So yeah. I've been doing it for the master's since I started. So unless something drastically changes or I need it in another part of the business or something like that, and we hire someone else, it would be me for a while. So. But, the first time that I flipped through the exam, the first time we gave it, I said, I think I could freaking pass this exam. So I feel pretty good about it. And I get to do all the taste panels with everybody because that's the administrator's taste and then the student's taste so that we have, a control group. So
let's say I log in and take the level 1 beer server exam and pass it. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. There's a whole progression of studying, but is there kind of a comfort period of time that someone should be in the industry before they take a rip at certified?
That's so personal depending on your experience and how quickly you learn and all that good stuff. Check out the syllabus. That's always what I say. Because people who've been in the industry for 25 years take certified beer server and fail it 6 times. And people who come home from the bar at 2 a.m. drunk take it and pass it. So, it really depends on so much that I can't say what level you should be at based on your experience or anything. Look at it. I say if it looks like it's written in another language, you need to take a few minutes to study. The first level we offer 2 attempts, so a lot of people just kind of go for it the first time, and then if they don't pass, then they, study and take it again. But, the other upper level exams, it's no joke. Like, it's almost $400. We recommend studying for almost 2 years for a certified Cicerone. So, I hope that people don't just fly into that one.
So taking a step back and winding it down a little bit, so I assume, well, no, I'm not gonna make this assumption, but I would think that a lot of Cicerones, they have connections in the industry, so they probably have an opportunity to get more whales than the average person, right? Do you, as a certified Cicerone, do you ever feel pressure to drink whales when you go out, or can you go to a barbecue and smash a PBR, just like the regular person, and enjoy it.
So it's not a PBR, but it's Jack's Abbey House Lager.
I knew it.
Freddie's in Boston.
I saw that can and I said,
You're like,
this is awfully familiar.
I was actually, speaking of connections, Craft Beer Cellar sent me this. So thank you, Craft Beer Cellar. But see, that's the kind of stuff that people send more often than not, which I consider this a whale because I can't get it and I think it's delicious. But you said bring it down a notch, so I poured myself a lager. See, but no, I don't really do the whole waiting in line for beer thing. I just don't. And more often than not, that means that I don't get to taste those beers, and that sucks. But I guess I don't care enough because I feel like there's so much other good beer. So life's too short to drink bad beer, so I don't. And I love every beer that I drink, and it doesn't matter to me, how rare or exclusive the beer is. That doesn't make it more tasty for me.
Absolutely.
I just like a well-made beer, and it's set and setting, I can absolutely, after the advanced exam, you can check my Instagram. I crushed a Coors Banquet after the advanced exam in San Francisco. I totally did. What's
your Instagram handle so we can tell the world?
It's Virginia R. Thomas. All of my social media is my name, so super easy.
There you go. Cool. So on the note of what you just said, life's too short to drink bad beer. We would absolutely love to thank you for spending some time with us tonight. We've spoken to two Cicerone, two master Cicerones before, but we've never spoken to anyone who actually works their regular 9 to 5 for the Cicerone program. So this has been absolutely a treat. I never thought about the fact that there's a content side and a business side to it, right? I mean, somebody has to be delivering putting together the content for people to take these tests and pass the test, score the test and administer the test, all that stuff.
Yep.
So this has been, at least for me, this has been very enlightening. I appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. We'd love to have you back on the show again. Maybe you can come on and be on our panel the next time we're interviewing a guest or something on that.
I'd be happy to. Whenever you can nail me down. I travel a good bit when I'm around.
Okay, well, thank you so very, very much.
Absolutely.
And
so
everybody...
I have to mention, we have a new website launching on May 23rd. So if you have a Cicerone profile, you'll have to log in and see how it is on the 24th. It's got all kind of updated newness, multilingual. You can message other users. This has been a big undertaking, and it's been a big part of my life. So I hope everyone likes it. People hate change, and I know I'm going to get yelled at for it, but I hope people like it.
It's updated newness. Come on, you can't turn that down.
Exactly, yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to join us, everybody, next week when our guest is going to be Tom Schaefer from Black Cloister Brewing. So until next week, find some good friends, find some great beer, and mind those P's and Q's.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.